Okay, so continue with your homework, and I just realized that at the end of the last video, I did do a homework problem, so it was pretty intense, so I'm glad I did the whole thing, but we're gonna do hints here, not really the actual answers. This is to solve following equations, and it gives me this graph, so clearly it wants me to graph to solve. And when I started graphing, I realized the graph that they gave us is terrible, so I've made these new graphs. And again, as I mentioned in class, you might want to, either make your own graphs, grab graph paper, put them on top, or just move the axes on the graph paper we provide, but the graph paper I gave you is just not really helpful for actually solving this problem. So there I am, I've done the graph paper. I'm going to go to Desmos and see what it looks like so I can steal the work. I think it's still here. Yes, there it is. So here you can see that I've got the function, the square root of 2x minus 1 minus x, and I called it a function just so to make it easier to make the table. So in the table I have put in 1/2, which is the starting point, 1/2 comma negative 1/2. Then I put in 1, which is 0, 2 is this decimal, 3 is that decimal, 4 is that decimal, and 5 is negative 2. So those are my dots. So I'm going to go ahead and plot the points onto my graph that makes sense. As I look at this, I can see that it looks like decimals, 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 decimals until right about there, which I think is at 13 as an input. So let's check. 13, yep, I get a nice number. So these are the numbers I'm going to use, which is why I set up my grid the way I did. So I've got 1/2 comma negative 1/2, 1 comma 0, and 5 comma negative 2. And then 13 gave me, what was 13? Going back, 13 is negative 8. Okay. So moving back over to the graph, 13 is negative 8. And so looks something like this. So that's the equation. And we want to know when it's equal to negative 8, and which again is part of why I wanted the graph to go out this far. Because if I use the grid that I was given, it's not going to actually work. And so there's my picture. They're equal right here at when x equals 13 is my answer. It's 13 comma negative 8. So over here, you're going to draw the same blue graph and then find out when it equals 0. So see what you can do. That one's pretty straightforward, but I'm going to leave you to the second one yourself. Then we have this one. Rewrite it in graphing form. Sketch and label the graphs, labeling all important points. This looks like a circle because we've got x squared and y squared. So x squared minus 2y squiggle plus y squared. Nothing I could do with that. I'm going to go ahead and put 29 on the other side and then squiggle. Squiggle is half of this middle number, which is 1, and 1 squared is positive 1. And so since I'm on both sides, I'm going to put positive 1 on both sides. I've got x minus 1 quantity squared plus y squared equals 30. So now it's in graphing form. I need to find the center of the circle. This is a circle. Center of the circle and the radius of the circle. So center and radius, I'm not going to do that for you. Remember, you got the general form is x minus h squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared. So that will help you find your center and your radius. Your center is h comma k and your radius is r. So good luck with that, and then try to draw it on the graph. Once you know where your center is, draw a circle with the right radius. It's a tough little radius, so do your best, but that's what that one is. There's your hints. On this one, where does it intersect the y-axis? Where does it intersect the x-axis? What's going on? So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and factor this. So x, and to make negative 6, x is two numbers that multiply to make negative 6 and add to make 5 are positive 6 and negative 1. And so it intersects the y-axis at when x is 0, so 0 comma negative 6, intersects the x-axis at negative 6 comma 0 and positive 1 comma 0. And so negative 6 comma 0, positive 1 comma 0. You'll notice it goes very low. I don't know how low, but it goes very low. And what would happen with this, it'll be the same graph, but it's been shifted up 6 units. The vertex, all that stuff. So what's going on? So the idea is this is going to be up 6 units for the graph we already have. So then think about that and compare them, P and Q, and what happens if I subtract one from the other, and what happens. So I want you to look at that. I want you to go ahead and use Desmos to figure everything else out, and good luck for that with that one. And then we have 43, which these two graphs are critical because you're going to need them for our homework in our next section. And so y equals the absolute value of x, so -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2. And so there's that one, which you should not need very much help graphing. And then we have the absolute value of y, which we're doing in blue. And so -2, -1, 0, 1, which I'm plugging in for y, gives me 2, 1, 0, 1, 2. And so they will have the same branch over here that will match. And then this one will go like this. Okay? And how are the two graphs similar and how are they different? What are the domain and range? So using that, the domain, they're very similar graphs. They're just kind of flipped of each other. We'll get into what that means soon. That's a very important relationship they share. But I want you to come up with what you have for that, not me. And then we have this system, solve it algebraically. Where do the graphs intersect? And explain the relationship. So to solve algebraically, I'm going to times the top equation by -3 to get rid of y, or the bottom equation by 2. The bottom equation sounds better. So we're going to times the bottom equation by 2, and we get 3y minus 4x equals -1, and 18y plus 4x equals 8. Adding them together, I get 21y equals 7, and y equals 1/3. So when I go back, I have 3 times 1/3 minus 4x equals -1. So 1 minus 4x equals -1. And -4x equals -2. And x equals 1/2. So that's algebraically solving that. I didn't really explain what I was doing. I was using elimination the whole time. I times by 2 to eliminate the x variable, and then I solved, and then I'm plugging back in. So I'm going to go ahead and to do it graphically. They should intersect at 1/2, 1/3, I assume. And so I will look into that in just a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and go to Desmos and see what happened with these two graphs. Let me make sure I know what they are. 3y minus 4x equals -1. 9y plus 2x equals 4. So going over to Desmos, and we can get rid of these because we're done with that. And now I don't remember what they were. Yes, I do. 3y minus 4x equals -1. And let's go home. So there we are. And 9y plus 2x equals 4. And so there I am. You can see they intersect in the middle of the grid. Kind of zooming in right there at this point, 0.5 or 1/2, 0.33, which is 1/3. And so that's what I expected. And then I would draw my graphs using Desmos to help me. So you might want to freeze it on there and draw the graphs and explain the relationships between parts A and B and what is happening there. So good luck, and I will see you soon.